Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel for another video on Marvel Contest of Champions. It's a tasty old time. We've got Act 6 Chapter 1 right around the corner. Lots of things, positive, and also talk about the backlash with champion requirements. If you're not at that point, it's still important and fun to learn about what's coming up in the game that you should be preparing yourself for. But let's delve into things. First thing is we got our first look at what Kareena looks like. Now, a lot of people are kind of liking the vibe to different characters in the game, and it does go in its own direction, which I think is quite cool. The kind of comic book way of thinking is it should look a bit like this. So I'm glad that they've kind of gone with their own direction and kind of given this more like modern vibe to it. I wouldn't be surprised for Kareena to play some part as being either a playable character in the future or some badass boss. The story arc seems to be centered around the Grandmaster and the Collector trying to vie for the attention of Kareena and saying like, right, well, her powers are either going to be too powerful, she's still quite young, so she's got a rebellious nature to her. So there's a lot of things going on, her personal struggle, their personal struggle to shape her into some sort of thing that maybe she doesn't want to be. So that is going to be quite cool to see how this story erupts. If you're up for a Legends run, Kabam have got you covered. So if you do want to do that, then there is some decent stuff on offer. But the thing that has brought the most controversy is the champion requirements. Now, what we think of champion requirements is, oh, that's specific against things like different classes, different types of characters, and different character story teams to be restricted to. No, in this case, you can only use 5 stars and 6 stars in this particular game mode, which led a lot of players to come out and speak about this, talking about, well, 4 stars and synergy groups are really darn important, so why aren't we allowed to use them? And this just further restricts things, so it's not always going to be great for those that are trying to raise up the scales. If I'm going, right, I've got a decent 6 star and a decent 5 star, if I have this 4 star, it's going to mean that my champions are going to be able to deal with content that may be a bit difficult, a little bit more better. And this is one of the things that I always say, it's always best to gain champions that are increased in rank and higher, and then maybe do the content at a later date, because then what you're doing is you've got more stronger champions against weaker content. So that's always when things balance out. And it may be a case of going, right, well, the workaround of this is waiting a year, waiting until you've got some champions that have got better synergy groups that are in 5 star or even 6 star. And then you're like, right, well, Act 6 is actually a little bit more easier and less on resource spend, depending on what difficulty that we're going to see from the game next week. Putting in a requirement that is very restrictive is something that does separate out the player base. Now, there will be players that will be able to have a huge roster that is 5 star or 6 star. It doesn't matter if you've paid into the game or you're an extensive grinder or in a better alliance and a more competitive and more skilled, you may find this completely fine because you'll have the roster to deal with this. But there will be the others that go, hey, well, I really wish I had a 5 star version of this champion, maybe even a 6 star to make my synergy grouping and also the champions a lot stronger for the content that I'm going to go into. I think for a lot of us, we were like, we didn't know if this was going to happen, but it looked fairly likely it was. With changes to things like champion requirements being something that has been slowly put into the contest, it should have been something that was fairly obvious that would come. Personally, like I said, I thought this would be more tailored to certain champion groups as we kind of fight throughout the contest, going, okay, so the Avengers need to deal with X, the X-Men need to deal with Y, and then Inhumans need to deal with Z. That's how I thought it was maybe going to go down that line, but it's more a case that it's 5 star and 6 star, which is not exactly what I was expecting. I was thinking that it would be more extensive to that, 4, 5, 6. And especially, does this then cut out the idea of thinking, right, so if we have 7 stars at a future time place, and let's think about this, this could be something that would happen. Does it necessarily say that you can only use 5 and 6 stars and you're not able to use 7 stars in content like this in saying about a year, maybe even 2 years time? Which then does cut out my theory and my kind of strategy of going, right, well, I'll take the most strongest champions, which could be in a couple years time 7 stars, and take them against difficult content from that is now technically weaker. So I take 7 stars into that, but I can't. So that really cuts off my strategy, which in some ways can be seen a little bit unfair, but to others they may go, nah, that'll be all absolutely fine, especially considering that we get higher ranks of 6 stars. So it may not be as bad. But I digress, let's talk about the buffs. First up, let's talk about no retreat. Now, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's like cow drops, except that it's a case of it's unavoidable damage. Great. But If you don't dash back, it's fine. How do you achieve this? I'd probably say parries, going into a block, and then waiting for the enemy to heavy attack. You're going to have to dash forward or hit forward whilst the enemy is charging up the heavy attack. You're going to have to be very fast in order to execute that, so do bear that in mind. Special delivery in a nutshell is don't lose your charges. Always keep them, reset them. Always apply a special attack, topping up. That's how it really works. Next up, it's hello combo, let's go party. Yeah. So this is pretty cool. This is now kind of like complementary to the attacker, but obviously don't get hit. That's the main thing. Don't get hit and you'll be able to get a nice little cruelty buff. I'm actually thinking about utilizing my 6-star Gamora against this, so I'm quite looking forward to this. Long distance relationship, well, you know, we've all been in them before, but the fact is, keep your distance. We don't want that weakness debuff. And yeah, so keeping your distance is quite a good thing. Maybe champions that kind of like hitting some debuff effects and then just like hitting a bit and then go right back, keep your distance, do the same, repeat, and yeah, so it's like hot potato or kind of like sticking away from a Mega Red, because you know what happens when you get too close to him. Next up is Close Encounters, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. For this, I'm already thinking that Captain America Infinity War is going to be quite good, because obviously being up close and personal, being in a block stance, high block proficiency, taking a bit of damage is going to be quite beneficial for that character. Although, the fact is, I only have him as a 4-star. Great, thanks champion requirements, that's always helpful. But I don't think taking a 4-star would be of advantage, especially eating it into the block. I'd probably have my health just decimating away. It's not going to be great. Yeah, as it says here about power control champions, this is the point where there could be of value. I'm kind of looking for the idea of using a champion like even Zeta, like Vision, Magic. Maybe my 5-star Dormammu, I might brush off the dust of that character for him to be a bit of a lead again. That's why I think I'm holding back on my rank up materials, just kind of going, well, what could I bring in that I could bring up and make the situation a little bit more easier? And I do like and the importance of making things easier as possible with difficult content like this. Now, a bit unusual, Hurt Locker. Using the same type of special attack twice in a row gives the attacker a delayed blast charge for 5 seconds, which may be removed by landing a heavy attack. If the blast expires, the attacker takes 50% health. And the note is, this one, as the name might suggest, focus on creating a bomb defusal moment while you play. If you make a mistake, you'll have a small window to correct it before your mistake comes back to bite you. Rest assured, there will be challenges that will threaten to trip you up. Fantastic. So maybe don't use the same special attack in a row. Maybe deviate between doing an L2 and an L1. Maybe even it's a case of going, right, well, if you know the enemy champion, you can hit in a parry and then do a heavy attack, or try and time your heavy attack. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. That's the point of then you can just defuse the bomb. The PI ranges don't seem to be that bad, but do bear in mind that we'll scale with different chapters as you go through. And obviously we can do comparisons to difficulty based on things like the clashes that we've done, those challenges, where we've seen champions like get up to something like 55k as a boss as a 6-star, because obviously more likely it's going to be a 6-star you're going to face off against. The rewards seem to be all right for chapter 1. Obviously these are going to get better as they go through until chapter 4, but a lot of players have talked about the idea that, well, they don't seem that substantial. So I'll leave people in the comment section to have their say on whether or not they feel this is applicable in scales against the difficulty of the content. And we still haven't really seen it yet. As long as you really know the nodes and kind of play it well, then I'm sure that it will be fine. But there could be a little bullshittery that you may have to look out for in this particular chapter 1. Also, there is a new rank, a Cavalier rank, which I thought was like uncontested or something. Anyway, whatever it is. The fact is you become a Cavalier, which allows reductions on things like Grandmaster Crystals. You get a Grandmaster Crystal in a very short space of time, where it's like 14 days, now it's 7. So that's pretty cool. It's good to see those kind of reductions. And also there's improvements with like daily crystals and what you get out of them, so a bit more valuable to players. And it's something that I think I'll be aiming to get. I think the initial completion, even though it may be difficult, I don't know. I have to wait till the 13th of March in order to find out that. But when that happens, it'll be like, right, well, let's get into this and see whether or not this is going to be viable for me to do within the first day, the first week, the first month. but I really need to get that Cavalier. And some players will rush to get that in order to see the value from it in a very short space of time. So there we go, that has been a video all about Act 6 Chapter 1. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button and subscribe for more Marvel Contest of Champions based content. If you want to support the channel and hit the join button, you will become a member, and then it allows you to support me as a creator. And at the same time, if you want to join the Discord, then the link is in the description below. And finally, we'll probably be doing some live streaming on Act 6, so do catch me next week to kind of do an exploration. I'm probably not going to go too much into it, but we'll explore, you know, the difficulty of the champions, the type of champions in there. Hopefully it's a case you can see all the different champions you're facing off against to plan yourself against where you're going, but we don't know. This could be a thing. Expect the unexpected with Kabam. In any case, thanks again for watching. I shall catch you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.